Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Who Dat Weekly, featuring the Dirty Dallas finest, Christopher J. Spires. Alright, I hope that intro got you all hyped up for college football, because today is a special edition episode. We're not talking about the NFL today, we're talking strictly about college football, baby. Woo! Alright, as you can see, I got my gear all set up, and yes, of course, I'm an Ole Miss fan. I gotta represent my Revs, baby. But I'm excited. So just for context, we're not covering every single college football team. That's too much to look at. Because I took this past week and a half just like trying to look up every single SEC team, what their recruits were looking like, what their transfer portal looks like, what their projections are, like just based off other people's predictions and everything. And it's a lot of work. Let me tell you that. I don't know how experts do it, but hey, I gave it my shot, and that's why this episode's gonna be special, because it's all about the SEC, baby, where it just means more. So, alright, with that being said, as I mentioned, we're talking about the SEC. We're going to be giving all predictions about who's going to be first and who's going to be dead last. I think we kind of got an idea who's going to be dead last. I'll get into that momentarily. But we're also going to be looking at each individual SEC team, what their strengths are on both offense and defense, what their weaknesses are on the same thing, and then just give a general overall summary of each team. And so with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so before I forget, don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, if you have a kid that needs help tutoring, again, as I mentioned before, the Inspired Tutoring people are offering summer tutoring right now. So if you want to hit them up, just dial the number in the screenshot to the right of me or to the left of me, whichever side I put it on. I can't keep track of that, but you all know what I mean. But yeah, call them up. And get your child ready for the next semester. All right, that's all I had for today. And let's go ahead and get into the good stuff, baby. So, all right. So, as I've been doing my research and everything on each team, I came across this one interesting predictions for next season. So because the SEC no longer has West and East divisions, and I really wish they would bring that back. If all being honest, us SEC fans would know. It would be. It's. I'm still adjusting to it. It just looks weird that we just literally have top to bottom, and whoever's first is going to SEC championship, which makes sense. And then the second best team also goes to the SEC championship, and everybody else, well, good luck. So, but as I was doing research, this one particular, and I'll post this momentarily, and I found this off a magazine, and I have to tear this person apart because I don't know what they're thinking here. So, with that being said, let me tell you what this person picked. So, I'm going to go one by one from top to bottom. So, in first place, they have Texas. Sort of makes sense, but I can make an argument to why they wouldn't be first. Number two, they have LSU. Like I said, I'm going to talk more about this at the end after I get finished talking about announcing these persons' rankings. So let me go ahead and just keep going. So at number 3, there's Alabama. At number 4, there's Georgia. At number 5, there's Oklahoma. Number 6, South Carolina. Number 7, Florida. Number 8, Ole Miss. Number 9, Auburn. Number 10, Missouri. Number 11, Tennessee. Number 12, Texas A&M. Number 13, Arkansas. Number 14, Vanderbilt. Number 15, Kentucky. And number 16, Mississippi State, a.k.a. Cal State. Moo. So if you just take a look at this list, whichever my hands are pointing at, what do you see? What do you see here? What I see here is a list that should not have existed in the first place. There's so much wrong with this list. Like I said in the beginning, I could make an argument to why Texas should not be ranked number one, or will be number one in the SEC. Here's why. So as we all saw last season, they've been successively been in the playoffs back-to-back years, and both times they have fallen one game short of the national championship. I am not discrediting Texas on that. They are a legit good team. Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, has done a phenomenal job with Texas, and he's been recruiting the crap out of his own state, outside the state, around the country, really. Like, he's done one hell of a job, and I have to tip my hat off to them for that. So, but here's the thing. This year is going to be a little bit different, and it's not because Arch Manning is finally being a starter, which is actually one of the more exciting things about Texas this year. Was we get another child from the Manning family to finally step into football picture more clearly, because we actually get to see him as a full-time starter. So this will be interesting to see. But here's the thing. Yes, we saw him play last season several times, and he was a starter a few games, but he was on and off the field for the rest of the season once Quinn Ewers was fully healthy and all that. And we saw glimpses and flashes of what he is capable of doing, which is encouraging. But here's the other thing. Texas just lost their entire O-line. That could be a little problematic. Maybe not too problematic because, like I said, they got a coach who can recruit, and he has recruited so well that it may not even faze them. But at the same time, whenever I see a team that loses their entire O-line, they usually take a step backwards, and that's why I could make an argument to why I think Texas might regress. Maybe they'll probably still be within the top 5 in the SEC, don't get me wrong, but I think they would take a couple steps back because we don't know how well Arch Manning's going to play fully as a starter. We also don't know what their O-line's going to look like. We don't know what their receivers are going to look like, because they also lost the receivers, including running back. We'll touch up more on that later. But the defense should be fine. And again, I'll touch up more on a full-scale team-by-team analysis later in this video. So let me continue to get through this list. LSU, again, too high in my opinion. Nope, not. Before you crazy LSU fans assume that I'm just hating, I've been critical of LSU, well, really my entire life. But in regards to Brian Kelly, I think they rank him this high because Brian Kelly has his best recruiting class in his entire coaching career. But it's Brian Kelly himself that I'm concerned with. And I'm being non-biased about this. I mean, why would I be biased about this? I'm an Ole Miss fan. Why do I care? But the thing with LSU, it's like I think they're ranked too high because their expectations are too high. And what happens when your expectations are too high? Crash and burn. Look at my Ole Miss Rebs last season. My expectation was so high, I assumed that we were automatic bids for the college football playoff because we had Jackson Dart, we had Trey Harris, we had Caden Lee, who was actually just a sophomore, but he played well. We had so many weapons on offense, and we had one of the best defenses I've seen in a hot minute. What happened? We went 9-3, completely missed the college football playoff, but we missed it by this much. It was actually pretty competitive last season. I'll talk more about that maybe at another time. But the point I'm making is, don't get your hopes up, LSU fans. Just don't. Trust me on this. I've been there. I was gravely disappointed how it went. It could be the same scenario with Brian Kelly, and we know Brian Kelly's track record. I think Notre Dame fans would like a word on this one. So, again, I'll discuss more about this later, so let me continue down this road. So, Alabama, I don't know about those guys. Alabama took a bit of a slight nosedive last season. Nick Saban leaving them really changed things for that program for certain. So, I would make an argument that I would flip, in the top 4, that is, I would flip Georgia, where Texas is located, and then I would say Alabama's right behind Georgia. So it'd be like Georgia, Alabama, Texas. I guess LSU maybe. I don't know for certain. I have my own predictions. I'll post them right after I talk about these people, this person's predictions. But anyway, so let me just carry on. So the thing that threw me off the most was Oklahoma at 5. Oklahoma at 5? Are you kidding me? Hey Siri, what was Oklahoma's record last season? Yeah, that's what I thought. 6-6. Give me a break. Come on. Why is this person ranking them so high? Oklahoma was crap. They were trash. Crap. Dog pile. You name it. Like, they were terrible. Like, they were just straight up terrible. Like, I would have put South Carolina, Florida, hell, my own Ole Miss Rebels, I would have put them over Oklahoma. Give me any of those as hell. I could make an argument for Tennessee, to be honest. We'll talk about those guys momentarily. But, come on, man. Oklahoma at 5? No. Come on, man. Anyway, so moving on. So, the rest of the list is okay-ish. Like I said, I would make an argument that Tennessee should be ranked much higher. Maybe same for Texas A&M. I'm not sure about those guys quite yet, but I'll discuss about that momentarily. So, but the bottom 4, yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, trash. So, with that being said, let me talk about my predictions and how I think that the SEC is going to go around. This is just the predictions, and like I said, I'll get into individual team analysis momentarily. So, stick with me here. So, at number 1, we have Georgia. I think that makes the most sense because, yeah, I know Georgia kind of lost in that first, I think it was the first round of the college football playoff, something like that. Yeah, they lost to Notre Dame. So, and yes, sure, they lost Carson Beck, but let's be frank, Carson Beck was not that good. But we'll talk about that later. And I think Georgia is bound to bounce back. And they always bounce back. They have one down year, and they just come crawling right back up. And guess what? They're back in the college football playoffs again. I bet you that's going to happen again. So I'm putting Georgia at number 1. And also from an SEC standpoint, they won the SEC championship last season, so it only makes sense for them to be number 1 in this scenario. And then at number 2, I put in Texas because, well, Texas, like I just said, Texas is good. There's no doubt about that. I have questions about them, but I think they'll get the job done. So, Texas at number 2. Number 3, this one I debated a little bit between LSU and Alabama, but I put Alabama because I think, now, it just may not happen, but I think they could just, they have a comeback here this year. This time they'll be more of a threat to the SEC than they were the year before, because the year before was just an absolute mess for Alabama. Like I said, we'll talk about it momentarily. And then, like I said, I put LSU at 4. Now, this is where I change things up. Instead of what this person put at Oklahoma at 5, I put Florida at 5. You're like, whoa, Florida, whoa. Did you not see their record last season? Yeah, I did. Don't get me wrong. But I saw how they finished. They finished pretty strong. They won their last 4 games of the season. That includes a bowl win. And they have a lot of young talent that is turning heads. And I would not be surprised if they actually make a run for it this time. So, now it might make South Carolina fans mad when I say they're going to be at the number 6 spot. They're like, wait a minute. What? South Carolina was this close from their first college football playoff appearance. Yes, I know that. But they lost a lot of pieces. And knowing South Carolina, do we really want to assume they'd be consistent enough to have back-to-back good seasons like that? I don't think so. So I think a safe bet is putting them at 6. And now, this is me just being humble, even though I could be a little bit biased. I put Ole Miss at 7. And I'll explain why later on. Tennessee, I put at 8. Again, we don't know about those guys quite yet because of certain circumstances happened. Nico left their program, and that was one whole mess that I'm sure Tennessee fans are just spewing with hatred for him right now. But anyway, I put Missouri at 9. I put Texas A&M at 10. Oklahoma rightly deserves at 11, not freaking 5. I don't know what this person's talking about. Auburn at 12. Arkansas at 13. Vanderbilt at 14. Kentucky at 15. And Mississippi State at 16. Rightfully deserved. So, Now let's get into the individual team analysis. So we're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna start from top to bottom. We're gonna start with the Georgia Bulldogs. So Georgia, as I mentioned already, they lost Carson Beck, but again, I could make an argument that he was just not that good. I think he was actually one of the most overrated quarterbacks that they ever had. Like, he just wasn't that good. And yeah, sure, their O line stunk last season, but they still won games. They still won a lot of games. They were still 10-2. They still went to college football playoff. But I'm not gonna say it was because of Carson Beck. And you wonder what happened to Carson Beck. He transferred out of there to Miami. For what I heard, he actually only transferred to Miami because his girlfriend was there, which I guess makes sense. So, but now Georgia has a whole new quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, who, well, he was all right. I wouldn't say he was great, but then again, he was thrown in there just to, like, keep the team afloat, which he did. And he actually didn't do terrible in his first real start against Notre Dame, but that was the college football playoff, and what do you expect to do? Like, there's not much you can do there. So, but a bright spot that they got is Nate Frazier. He ended the season with 133 carries for 671 yards, 8 touchdowns, and I expect him to be among the top 5 best running backs in the SEC for certain with those kind of stats. So if he doesn't do that, then that'd be kind of surprising. Now, the next question I'll have for their offense is, what's their offensive line going to look like? That's the key thing there, because they lost 4 guys to the draft. Most recently, maybe 1 or 2 guys maybe transferred. I don't think that was the case here, but yeah, like, so with that being said, like, their offense on paper should be pretty solid, maybe even better this coming season, but we'll see about that. Defense. They only have 3 returning stars, and when you hear a low digit like that, you better pray that your defense is pretty good. But knowing Georgia, and as I already mentioned this, Georgia is always recruiting so well that even if you lose some really talented players, it doesn't hurt them. They become the new Alabama when Nick Saban was still around. Yeah, you lose some guys. Oh well, we just reload. So, but like I said, I think their defense should be fine, and their secondary looks to be the strength of the team. And yeah, like, the defense should be the strength of the team next season. So, because they have some really talented secondary players. I don't know any off the top of my head, unfortunately, but from what I saw on their roster briefly, I'm like, okay, a bunch of 4 or 5-star recruits. I'm sure Georgia fans would take that. So, my overall summary of Georgia. My overall summary will include that Georgia will embark massive changes to the team, from quarterback, offensive line, a few defensive players here and there. This will be Coach Kirby Smart, the coach of the Georgia Bulldogs. This will be his biggest challenge yet. And this will really, if he can get this team to 10 or more wins with the roster he has now, then he's definitely going to be up there in one of the best college football coaches out there, hands down. But he's got to climb, and I'm inclined to believe in him pretty well, that I think he's going to get the job done. So, yeah. So, good luck to the Georgia Bulldogs. Next on the list is Texas Longhorns. So, as I mentioned, the Texas Longhorns lost a bunch of starters to the draft. They lost 8 total, from linemen to wide receivers. As I mentioned, Arch Manning is the biggest name out there. And he has a good shot at winning the Heisman this year. And now, in my humble opinion about Arch Manning, yeah, Heisman sounds good, but I think they only mention that because of his last name, Manning. I don't remember if Eli Manning or even Peyton Manning won the Heisman. I know Archie Manning came close to winning a Heisman, but I don't know if his 2 sons did or not. But I'll have to do more research on that. But to be under consideration so early, and he hasn't even played a full season yet, is pretty good, if you ask me. So, But other players such as Quintrevian Wisner, he had 1,064 yards all last season. Someone to look out for as well. He's their running back, I believe. Yeah, running back. So I would say I think Texas is going to reload on offense just fine, like they've been doing, which leads me to the next point, which is defense. Their defense is coming off their best season yet in the college football playoff era, and I think they will continue that trajectory. They have cornerback Michael Taff in the secondary, and linebacker Anthony Hill, who had 113 tackles, 16 and a half for loss, and 8 sacks total. That's pretty scary. And most of their guys are either sophomores or juniors. They have experience already. They've been playing out there for a while. So I expect this defense to be really scary next season. So don't be surprised if they hold a team to under 17 points a game. So I'm making that prediction right now. I think they do that. So my overall picture of Texas, Texas got the weapons, the recruits, the coaches to go for another playoff run. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. The questions remain is, can Arch Manning live up to those expectations? And can these newcomers that they got that are taking over on offense now, can they effectively replace the outgoing ones that were drafted most recently? Only time will tell. So, with that being said, let's move on to the Crimson Tide. I'm sure all you Crimson Tide fans would love to hear my input on the Crimson Tide. So, on offense, we all know they lost Jalen Milroe, who was literally their entire offense. Let's be honest there. Excuse me. But they have one of the most talented receiver rooms out there. They have Ryan Williams, who, that should be a no-brainer. They have Jeremy Bernard, and most recently they acquired Isaiah Horton from whatever school he came from. I don't know. I didn't see where he came from. But the only thing that concerns me is they have a brand new offensive coordinator. And I don't know for certain what kind of an offensive style he's going to throw out there. Now, it's either going to, A, work out so well that it actually exploits the receivers and makes them more wide open and allow the running backs to do their thing, or B, it's going to backfire so badly that Alabama might be at risk of having one of their worst seasons they've had in, I don't know when the last time they were bad. So, and also another thing, their O-line, like I mentioned before, their O-line was so bad. Like, it was so bad that they allowed Vanderbilt players, and we all saw that Bama lost to Vanderbilt last season. They allowed Vanderbilt players to actually get in the backfield. We all know Vanderbilt players ain't you know what. So, yeah, so if they don't fix that O-line, I don't care who you throw back there. And from what I saw, they have quarterback Ty Simpson, who's been with Alabama for the last 2 seasons now. If you throw him back there and their O-line still allowing that many sacks, yeah, you're not winning games, period. And your defense has regressed. And let's talk about the defense now. The defense took some massive hits in the recruits the past year, and it continues that trajectory. In fact, they're still losing recruits as we speak. Now, they gained some recruits from high school, maybe a few here from transfer portal, but it's not as much as what Saban had back then, like where everybody wanted to go to Bama. Now everybody's trying to just go away from Bama because the big thing there is Nick Saban's not there anymore. That should be self-explanatory. So, because while their new coach isn't terrible, I don't think he's cut out for taking over one of the greatest of all time in Nick Saban. Like, that's hard to replace. And I think he felt that a lot last season where he was trying everything in his power to keep Alabama afloat, and they would lose at the worst time possible to some of the worst teams in the SEC. Teams that you should have beaten by like 40-plus points. And, yeah, I think he's going to feel that a little bit more again this year, but maybe the Crimson Tide fans will have a little more grace on him, seeing that what he's really made of. I don't know. Time will tell at this point. So my overall summary for the Tide is that obviously this is not the same time that we're accustomed to. Nick Saban's gone, so they're vulnerable, they're beatable, like, and while I think they will make an effort to bounce back, and this might get a little controversy here, I think they will fall short again. And yes, I know I ranked them pretty high in my predictions list because I think they're definitely still one of the better teams in the SEC, and they've been proven to remain resilient no matter how bad they've fallen. I still don't think I don't think they quite get there quite yet. I think they'll still miss out on the SEC championship again. They might be able to sneak into the college football playoff, but of course that scenario is unknown because we don't know who's going to be in it this year. The last 2 years have been different teams, which hasn't been nice, but that's a topic for another day. But it just depends on who's in it. Like all last season, man, you didn't know who was actually going to be in it. So again, that's a topic for another day. So. All right, LSU fans, I know y'all been waiting for this one. Let's talk about those Tigers. All right, so LSU. Should I say LS who? LS poo. All right. Yeah, go to hell, LSU. All right, I'm done. So last season was, I would say in LSU terms, trash. To me, I still thought they were pretty solid. Were they great? No, definitely not. They had a lot of issues last season, and that was pretty evident. On offense, the good news for the Tigers is that they have Garrett Nussmeier coming back, and he obviously is much needed because he did show some signs of growth towards the end of last season. The question is, will he still continue that growth? There's a lot of things while in the games I saw him play, including the game against Ole Miss last season in Tiger Stadium. The things I noticed about him is that he stays in that pocket way too long. And he will stay there and not actually bother running. And there will be multiple occasions where there's a wide open running lane and there's clearly nobody open. And what does he do? He just stands there. And that's concerning. And then there'll be other occasions where he is throwing the ball recklessly away to other teams. He's trying to do too much. Those are things I would be concerned about. I hope that LSU fans are not trying to hype him up to be the next Jaden Daniels or the next Joe Burrow. Trust me, I don't think that's going to be the case here. Garrett Nussmeier is Garrett Nussmeier. I don't think he's going to be all that good. This is coming from a non-biased perspective. So, will I think he's going to be one of the SEC best quarterbacks? Absolutely. Will I think he'll be a top 5 quarterback in college football nation? No. I told you, LSU fans, I'm not gonna be biased for you guys because obviously I shouldn't be. Why would I? But let's get back to the offense here. So LSU, as I mentioned, getting Garrett Nussmeier back. The thing though is, and this might actually cause problems with Nussmeier, is their O-line is gone, completely vanished. They might have one guy returning from last season, and their entire O-line last season was one of the best. But now they have a whole new O-line, and we don't even know how well those guys are going to play. And LSU this offseason has been recruiting through the transfer portal very heavily, so I assume they might have gotten a few pickups here and there. But like I've mentioned, having a really good transfer portal on paper sounds nice, and ask us Ole Miss fans that. And while it's worked out really well for us, you do see some errors and mistakes that are being made that are like, what are you doing? You should be better than this. So that's a warning I'll give to you LSU fans. Don't expect them to be just lights out, effective, perfect, super powerful. There's going to be mistakes, I can guarantee that much, because you got a whole bunch of new guys that have never played together before. You got to see how well their chemistry is. That's the thing there. So, with that being said, their receiver group for LSU is definitely up there in the top 5 best. They have Chris Hilton. They got Nick Anderson, Xavier Thomas. 3 bright spots out there that could easily make it in the top 5 best SEC receivers. So now time will tell to see how well that they gel with Garrett Nussmeier and all that. But they also have another bright spot in Caden Durham, who he's a running back. He had 753 yards and 6 touchdowns all last season, and received all SEC freshman honors. That's pretty good stuff for him. So a lot of good things to talk about LSU in terms of offense. Then there's the defense, and you LSU fans, you can say all you want that you have some really talented players, and you do. You have a couple, but I'm not going to say you guys have a lot of them. I think I can come up with 3 guys, and those 3 guys would be Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins, and their most recent transfer, Patrick Payton. You want to guess who the others are? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But here's the thing with their defense. Their defense has been trash, and you LSU fans know that. Like, your defense has not been up to par. In fact, you guys haven't had a good defense since Joe Burrow left. Like, it's been sad to watch, because growing up, and I'm an Ole Miss fan, but I also grew up watching LSU because my mom, she went to LSU, my dad went to Ole Miss, and during the LSU Ole Miss clash, I would always see them have an elite defense. I have not seen that in the last 5 years, and that's concerning. So I have little to no faith in that LSU defense of theirs, and I think that will be a contributing factor to why I think they may not be as good. And the only reason I put them up there in the top 5 in my predictions is because there's really no one else better than them in terms of talent and on how good they look on paper. So the overall picture for LSU, and this is where I'm going to get very critical about Brian Kelly here. Brian Kelly, yes, you got the best transfer portal out there. You have a really good high school recruiting class. You have a talented quarterback that could be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC, possibly top 5, maybe top 10 quarterback in the entire college football nation. But it depends on you, buddy. It really depends on you. Why? Because you are the biggest choke artist in college football history. Like, literally. Brian Kelly used to be the head coach of Notre Dame, and he would have fantastic seasons with Notre Dame. He would consistently have them in 10-plus win records, and only for them to fall apart come the college football playoffs or the formerly known as the BCS era. He every time they get into any of those championship categories, they just self-destruct, they crash and burn. I don't know what happens, but Brian Kelly cannot coach well when it comes playoff time. So, will that change this season? And that is my biggest question for LSU. Can Brian Kelly actually lead his team to glory? In this case, it's LSU. Personally, no. LSU fans, obviously, y'all would disagree with me because that's what you guys are, but I don't believe in Brian Kelly at all. And you guys shouldn't either. Brian Kelly, yes, good coach, but he consistently chokes when it matters most. And that is my overall summary for LSU right there. It all comes down to him. Not the talent on the team, because the talent's there. It's Brian Kelly himself. Moving on. So we got the Florida Gators, and what did I put them at? I put them at 5. Yeah, I put them at 5 for a reason. Yes, I know their record looks bad. It looks bad on paper, but they ended their season really well. They won their last 4 games. They won 4 out of their last 5 games, and overall, I really like how they ended their season. And let me tell you, their season started off so bad. They lost to freaking Miami of all teams. And yes, Miami was good last season, but they were severely overrated. But they started. I think they just started all the wrong guys. Like, they started all these older players who, when I say older, more like juniors, seniors, or something like that, or 5th-year senior. They started these players that you would think they would be pretty good, but they're just not that good. Well, fortune would have it, and I don't like to say this. I'm not trying to say their injuries were a fortune, but it's a fortune to DJ Lagway, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. it was a fortune to him because as soon as their original starting quarterback went down, he steps in. Next thing you know, that he is actually giving problems to SEC teams. He gave problems to Georgia. He gave problems to us Rebs. He gave problems to LSU. You name it. And the more I watch, I'm like, oh my God, they may have just found their quarterback because he actually looks good. Here's the problem, though. Can he stay healthy? That's the thing. Because he did get nicked up here and there, but he was able to battle it out and finish the deal. So if they can keep him healthy, I think they're going to make a run for it in the SEC. But I don't have them any higher than 5 because I need to see more. Now their defense, same thing. They struggled early, but as soon as they started putting in their younger players, like their freshmen, maybe sophomore, or redshirt players, they noticed significant changes, and their defense actually balled out. They actually made stops when they need them to happen. They actually look so competent. So my overall summary for Florida, you better watch out for those Gators. I think they're coming up. I think they really are coming. Now, are they national championship worthy? No, not by a mile. But I think they're going to make a run for it in the SEC. They're going to cause havoc. I think they'll be much better than people anticipate them to be. Now, if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. Y'all can shoot. You're going to come after me as y'all want to. But I really, truly think that Florida is on the rise here. Which leads me to South Carolina. So, South Carolina, as we saw, South Carolina was one ranking short of making the college football playoff. They were so close. And I'm kind of glad that they did it because their fans on social media are terrible. They're just trash. That's a separate subject. But let's talk about South Carolina here. Their offense is poised to have a potential Heisman candidate in Lenore Sellers to have a really spectacular season. And I'm actually kind of excited to face him this coming season because Ole Miss plays him later down the road. I want to see how well he really does in year 2 as a sophomore because he was a freshman last season. Now, the only thing that might trip him up is the O-line, much like LSU, the O-line is going to be in question. Now, theirs is not as bad. They only lost, 2, maybe 3 guys. But they recruited really well to the point where they could actually fill those holes. But the question is, will they generate enough chemistry to do that? Now, speaking of transfers, they also got Utah State transfer running back Rasul Fajan, who had 1,875 yards and 13 touchdowns all last season. Pretty good stuff there. But again, it comes down to that O-line, and we just simply don't know how good their O-line is. And their receivers. I don't know how well their receivers are either. They're hit or miss. But last season, I think they did well enough to where they just kept the ship afloat. So, well, I think strength on this team would be the run game because Lenore Sellers could run. He's a runner. And now they got this Rasul guy. I think their run game is going to be pretty scary. So, now that leads me to the defense. The defense, they lost a chunk of their guys. Like a lot of their guys. More than half of them went to the draft, and while that's a good thing, it makes the school proud, it's not a good thing when you're trying to compete for another potential crack at the college football playoff, even if you're just at the last remaining spot. So, one guy I noticed out there that looks pretty good, and he was like a 4 or 5 star ranked guy, is Jalen Kilgore. He led the defense in 5 interceptions all last season, and he's also joined by cornerback Judge Collier and safety DQ Smith. Again, I don't know these guys' stats off the top of my head, but this is what that was meant. This is what that was mentioned and that was noteworthy to point out. So that's why I'm pointing them out. So the question for the defense is, can they fill in those gaps? Much like Texas, for example, can they fill those gaps that have now been left for void because those players left for bigger opportunities? Only time will tell. So my overall look at the Gamecocks is, like I mentioned, they were a hairline short for the college football playoff. But can this team generate a good offense? Can they generate a good defense with the replacements that they all got? And can they continue can they continue the success that they had? Only time will tell. So, all right, Rebel fans, I think we know what time it is. Let's talk about yours truly, the hottie toddy rootin' top, yelling, screaming, Go Miss Rebels. Let's go. Hell yeah, damn right, baby. All right, so I had Ole Miss at 7 for a reason. Because I see Ole Miss as a kind of a middle of the pack in the SEC like they were the last season. So that made no sense, but you know what I mean. So anyway, Ole Miss last season, they still on paper had a good year, but because expectations were so high, we did not meet those expectations, and we had another shot to redeem ourselves, but then we lost to freaking Florida. Like the games against LSU, Kentucky, and Florida, Kentucky being the worst of them because Kentucky ended up being second to last season, and that was embarrassing. Which I can't wait to get revenge on those bastards. So, with that being said, we're seeing Ole Miss this season is going to be interesting. Again, Ole Miss has been recruiting so well in the transfer portal, and that's exactly what we did again. The Portal King, a.k.a. Lane Kiffin, struck again, recruiting multiple talented offensive playmakers at wide receiver and also at O-line because we needed to replenish the O-line here and there. The question I have is, how well will our new quarterback, Austin Simmons, be? And we got a good picture of what he could be. The best one I can share is how he played against Georgia. So there was a moment during the Georgia-Ole Miss game last season where Jackson Dart went down for a series. He went to the injury tent, and it didn't look good. We were all like, "Oh, here we go again." Well, Austin Simmons, I don't know what channel hit him, but he actually lit up the Georgia Bulldogs defense, drove down that field. He was 5 for 6 for 64 yards and threw a touchdown. He was impressive. It dropped all of our jaws. We were just, oh, wow, we actually have a solid backup. So, but here's the question. Jackson Dart ain't there no more. Trey Harris ain't there no more. Many other players ain't there no more. All the guys from last season that contributed to the last 2 years of success are not there anymore. So what does that mean for Austin Simmons? Well, it doesn't mean that he's completely screwed. We still have Caden Lee out there. We actually got a few solid transfers from Washington State and technically, well, he transferred out of 2 different schools. So he was at Washington State, then went to Oklahoma State. His name is Dezon Stribling, I think that's how you pronounce his name. And then there's tight end Daquan Wright, who was actually really good last season. He was actually getting more targets than pre-scoring last season. So, I'm overall, the talent on paper that I say I'm excited about. The thing I need to see is how well they gel. And this is where I get nervous about the Rebels, because while we have been recruiting well these last 5-6 years, however long it's been, the thing with Ole Miss is that after you have a team like last season or the team before that, usually the typical Ole Miss thing to do is we take a step backwards. So that's why the realistic me, being a diehard, knows that this could be the year that we will likely take a step back. I'm hoping we can win at least 8 games. If we get 9, 10, or more, hey, that's a win in my book, especially with the roster that we got. But the thing I just need to see them in action, because I just can't say that they're going to be among the SEC's best, even if they're in the top 5. I don't see them there quite for this roster in particular. So, what gives me a lot of faith, though, is knowing that Lane Kiffin can definitely coach up this team. He has done that consistently so well. And that's what gives me faith in these Rebels to where I think they can still be in the middle of the pack of the SEC. So, now let's talk about the Ole Miss defense. We had 3 guys on D-line that were critical in the pressures and sacks and quarterback hurries, you name it. And we lost all 3 of those guys to the draft. Rightfully so, of course. But the thing though is those are hard to replace, because they're all now part of an NFL team, and it's hard to determine how well they're going to play. So, now I don't know exactly who's going to be filling in those spots. I will leave that to our defensive coordinator Pete Golden. But the two players I definitely know who will make instant impacts are Sun Terrain Perkins and T.J. Daugherty. Sun Terrain Perkins he's all over the place. You put him out there, he could play safety. He'll probably pick the ball off. You put him at defensive tackle, he gets the sack. You put him at linebacker, he either will cut the running back short, bat the ball away, or he might pick it off himself. You don't know. He's everywhere. He's a multi-talented player. I'm so glad we had this kid on this team because he is an impact player kind of on defense, and I can't express that enough. So then the biggest concern I have for this defense, though, is the secondary. The secondary everybody's brand new. Everybody's brand new. We got transfer pickups from Arkansas, such as cornerback Jalen Braxton, who's actually good with Arkansas. The only good thing about those guys, I'll talk about them later. And then we got Louisiana Monroe transfer Wyatt Williams Jr. I don't know a whole lot about him. And the only thing I would say is anyone coming from Louisiana Monroe, yeah, good luck. So it's worked out for us on occasions. Like we had a 2-lane safety come in, and he actually balled out pretty well. He's now drafted, or at least I think he's drafted. He might have been a non-draft player, but anyway, not the point. So the defense will have to take a step up compared to last season in order to impress me. If they at least are equivalent to last season's defense, that's a win in my book. So the overall picture for the Ole Miss Rebels, in my opinion, the Rebels have a ton of talent on paper, as I mentioned already. They will but I have a lot of questions for them. Will Austin Simmons fill the void that was left by Jackson Dart, who became 1, the school passer leader, 2, one of the best quarterbacks in Ole Miss history, 3, one of the best quarterbacks in college football history, and he was a first-round draft pick. Now, of course, that's a topic later down the road. We have to see how he plays out first. So that's one question. And the second question is, can they continue to be a close runner-up for the college football contention next season, or will we regress next season? I'm inclined to say we will regress because that's usually how Ole Miss goes. I hope I'm wrong, but only time will tell. Tennessee Volunteers. Let's talk about you guys. So, Tennessee, as I mentioned, they lost Nico. I am Leva. I don't know how you pronounce that. So that was a bit of a shock because we didn't expect it to happen. But I'm one of my closest friends lives up in Tennessee, and I asked her, "Hey, what's your thoughts about this?" And she's like, "Well, first off, screw Nico." She held nothing back there. But she also mentioned that they have a lot of talent at quarterback. They actually just got this guy named from App State. His name is Joey Aguilar, if I pronounce that correctly. And last 2 seasons at App State, he had 6,700 yards and 56 touchdowns with App State. That's impressive, and that's in 2 seasons too. So she mentioned about that, and then she mentioned the wide receiver room on paper has talent. The only thing, though, is that they are unproven. Like, they're either a freshman, a redshirted true freshman, maybe a sophomore here and there. So the offense will definitely have some questions, but she's fully convinced that they will be just okay. And I'm inclined to agree with her because Tennessee has been pretty good. Like, even after they had, one of their best quarterbacks, I forgot his name already, but Tennessee fans would know this one. But they had this quarterback, and he actually was, the turning point for Tennessee in terms of quarterback. He beat Alabama to allow Tennessee to beat them for the first time in God knows how long. And he was literally one of the best quarterbacks out there. He was actually, I think, close to a Heisman consideration too. So, and then after that, they had Joe Milton. That's the guy. I don't know why that guy sticks out to me because that guy sucked. And then Nico comes in after Joe Milton is drafted, and now Nico is gone. So here's where I'm getting with Tennessee. Sure, on paper it doesn't look anything special, but their coach is a good coach. He coaches a good quarterback. He has been consistent with that in these last 3 or 4 years. So that's why I have enough confidence to agree with my friend about Tennessee in terms of their offense. Now, the defense, well, they're returning almost more than half their starters next season, and all their starters were a part of the college football playoff run despite the embarrassing loss they took to Ohio State in that playoff game. Ugh. I don't think I want to bring that up to Tennessee fans anymore. So, anyway, but for the 7 guys that are returning, and they only lost like 1 or 2 guys, something like that. They're going to be a force to reckon with for sure. And just because all those guys are coming back, instantly tells me that defense of Tennessee is going to carry that team for certain. Absolutely. Even if the offense is struggling with their newcomers playing, I think their defense will do the job very well to the point where they are going to carry the team for the rest of the season. So I have no doubts about those guys. So my overall picture for Tennessee, while there is a possibility for a regress in the cards for the Volunteers, or should I say the Vols, the talent and coaching is there, and I would not underestimate these guys. I really don't. Because you might write them off now just because Nico's not there. But let me tell you, I think Nico was just trash. So, Nico just didn't impress me enough. And a lot of Volunteer fans have come to terms about that. So, but anyway, I think the Vols are going to be just fine. I think they'll still be a competitive team in the SEC. Why do I have them ranked so low? It's out of just, uncertainty. So, with that being said, let's move on to some of these lesser teams that are now going towards the bottom of my list. Missouri. Missouri, I think, is going to be one big hot mess. Missouri lost more than half their starters on offense. I can't even tell you who's their starting quarterback. I can't even tell you who their starting running back is. But here's where they get a lucky charm here. They have one of the SEC's easiest schedules. But at the same time, it doesn't mean a lot because every year, some the SEC is different. So, right now, I say it's a benefit to them, especially with an offense that is very much unproven. But at the same time, I would be scared. Their defense, I would say, is their only bright spot here. And they have a really deep position at defensive end with Georgia transfer Damon Wilson, the second returning starter Zion Young, and also Chris McClellan. At linebacker, the additions of All-American freshman from West Virginia, Josiah Trotter, will also step in as the lead of the defense alongside with Tristan Newton. Again, I don't know who half these guys are. These are the guys that stuck out to me during my research, so I just threw them in there. So it sounds like that, and I know Missouri's defense has actually been pretty solid the last couple years, and I think they'll continue to be solid next season. Will it be the kind of defense like Tennessee to carry their offense? No. Let's be honest. And plus, Tennessee, not Tennessee, what am I talking about? Missouri's issue here is like they are never consistent. They cannot have back-to-back winning seasons. And I think they're going to take a rough season this year. It's not going to be horrible. I think they might win maybe 7 games. But I wouldn't expect them to win more than that. So we're going to quickly move on to Texas A&M. I'm sure this video is running a little long. But Texas A&M, where do I even start with these guys? Their quarterback sucks. Hands down. There's nothing good about that quarterback. Marcel Reed, he's returning for another season, but he's definitely going to be a bottom 5 quarterback in the SEC. Middle of the pack kind of quarterback. In terms of the college football nation, there's nothing good about that guy. Their bright spot, I would say, is running back Le'Veon Moss. He's really good when healthy. And that's not a good sign when your running back is really talented but has health issues already. So, and another thing, their O-line Uh, wait, hold up. Let me backtrack. Yes. Yes. So anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. So the O line is definitely going to be the strength of the team. They actually have a really good O line, and so like they should have no excuses for protecting the ball, allowing the ball carrier to run right through them. It should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. Well, we shall see. Like I mentioned, Le'Veon Moss has health issues, and Marcel Reed is trash. So, with that being said, let's talk about the defense. Now, the defense is they got 7 returning stars, so usually that's a good sign. But they also lost 3 key starters that were like literally their stars on defense. It helped them build the defense that they were. They lost Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, and Nick Scorton all to the NFL draft. And those guys were really tough. And I remember those guys. Those guys were tough. They actually were a very good defensive group. But now that they're all gone, good luck filling those gaps. So, one guy that stood out to me was defensive tackle Albert Regis. He's the most experienced guy on their defense for the Aggies, and he's got the best stats out there. I did see a glimpse of that. So my overall picture for the Aggies. Listen, look, let's be honest with the Aggies here. They're probably going to be touted as one of the upcoming rising SEC teams and maybe one of the better college football teams. They're probably going to be put in the college football playoff picture too soon. This happens too often. Like, literally too often. I think everybody can agree with that. This happens way too often, and they always find new ways to choke. Like, this, it's not happening. Expect the same thing to happen next season to the Aggies. The Aggies are probably going to start hot, and then they crash and burn. That's just what the Aggies are. They always start hot, but never, ever can stay consistent in trying to finish the season out. So expect the same thing. That's why I ranked them pretty low. So let's talk about the Oklahoma Sooners now, because in the list that I showed y'all earlier, they were ranked at 5 for whatever reason why. I put them much lower at 11 because I simply do not believe in these Oklahoma Sooners. So, and here's why. They have a whole new offensive coordinator who was coaching at Western Kentucky. And based off the stats from Western Kentucky, he led them to have a really high power top offense. But that's Western Kentucky. And where's Western Kentucky at? They're either in the MAC-10 or they are in the Sun Belt, one of those lower-ranked Group of 5 conferences. Keyword is Group of 5. We don't take anybody seriously from the Group of 5 because you're in the SEC, you're in the Gauntlet Conference, you're in one of the best conferences in college football history. You really think your style of offense is going to work in the SEC? Yeah, good luck, buddy. That's why, because of just that fact alone, I have no faith in the Oklahoma Sooners whatsoever. Their only bright spot is Deion Burks. And they recently got Western Kentucky transfer running back Jaden Ott, who apparently was their top target last season, which is good. And I would assume that he might do okay with Oklahoma, but we shall see. And they also got quarterback John Mateer, who apparently was like one of the best quarterbacks in the Group of 5. Again, that's not saying much. So overall in their offense, it's not good at all. There's literally nobody good on that team. Now defense will probably be their bright spot. Their linebacker core is going to be pretty good, despite losing Danny Stutzman at linebacker and also safety Billy Bauman. They both went to the NFL. I should know about Danny Stutzman. He's with the Saints right now. And their defense has actually been a solid defense. They actually, despite their record, they actually held opponents to less than 20 points a game, which is shocking. But that's a good sign. So, that shows that they're able to adapt to the SEC style of defense, and they just can. And I assume they're going to carry it the same way. But as I mentioned already, the Sooners have a really bad offense, and this is where I'm getting to the overall picture here. The Sooners, much like Missouri, could have a solid defense, but the question is, can they be more productive and keep the defense off the field? Can their offense generate enough points to where they can win games? That's something I don't believe in the Oklahoma Sooners with. So Sorry, Oklahoma. All right. Next, we got Auburn. Ooh, Auburn. Where do I begin with these buffoons? Auburn, you got Coach Hugh Freeze. He's notorious for doing things the wrong way. We should know. Us Ole Miss fans found out the hard way. And he's the reason why I do not like him to this day. So, anyway, so their offense. They have a talented receiver core. There's no doubt about that. They actually had a pretty solid core last season. What sunk them? Two things. Their quarterback sucked, and the turnovers were crazy. Like, they had the most turnovers in the SEC. It was embarrassing. They acquired quarterback Jackson Arnold from Oklahoma. He might help, but I saw Jackson Arnold play with Oklahoma. I was not impressed, like, at all. He's not that good. So I think they just wasted a recruiting point out of him. The only guy I could see might make some noise is Deuce Knight, but I don't even know who the starting quarterback is. I assume it's going to be Jackson Arnold just because he has more experience. They might even throw Deuce Knight out there, but it just depends how Coach Freeze does his thing. So, but in terms of running backs, non-existent. Overall, their offense is not good. Defense, not any better. They're a little bit better than the offense, but it's not great. They do have one guy who actually is the top best defensive player in the country. That's Keldrick Falk. He had 11 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hurries, 7 sacks. I don't know how many tackles total he had. It didn't say, but he's literally the bright spot on that Auburn defense. And they have another guy named Malik Bogdan. He had a really solid freshman season based off his stats as well. Sadly, I didn't post them here, but overall, the entire Auburn defense actually held their ground somewhat. They allowed only 21.3 points per game, which is actually one of Auburn's best defenses in the last 5 years. So that is saying something, but at the same time, it's really not. So the overall picture, I would say, Hugh Freeze, you better hope your new recruiting class works out. I also forgot to mention, Hugh Freeze has one of his best recruiting classes, much like Brian Kelly did. He has his best recruiting class both in the transfer portal and high school recruiting. So he should have no excuses to why this team should not be good. But I think the same problems are just going to keep up. Like, Coach Freeze he's lost his touch. Like, he's not as good as he used to be when he used to coach for Ole Miss. And I think the team's current inconsistencies at offense is what's going to cost him his job in the long run. Sorry, Auburn fans. So, all right, we're almost to the end stretch, so bear with me. This is a really long video. I do apologize, but So anyway, Arkansas. Let's talk about these guys. These guys, I have never seen a team like Arkansas that got poached like crazy with their players. Like, they lost 33, 34, 35 guys to the transfer portal. That is a lot. Mainly on offense, their defense not so much, but that's a lot of guys. Like, goodness gracious. And Ole Miss took like a couple of theirs. I don't know where the rest of them went, but goodness gracious. I think Arkansas is going to be in braces for a bad year, so I'm going to make this quick on Arkansas. Their only good bright spot is Taylor Green, their quarterback, because he's a good mobile quarterback. He actually has a solid arm. They do have 3 good running backs in Braylon Russell, Rodney Hill, and most recently New Mexico State transfer Mike Washington Jr., but they have no O-line. They have no other proper receivers. They got no tight end, which makes it even sad. In fact, their tight end went to Ole Miss, believe it or not. Defense, it's not any better. They only have 3 starters returning. Defensive tackle Cameron Ball, linebacker Xavier Sorry Jr., linebacker Steven Dix Jr. There's nothing good to talk about Arkansas here. I think if they get 6 wins next season, that's a win in their book. But I don't even see them making it to 6 at all. It's going to be a bad year. So this is where I get the overall summary. All these newcomers that they recruited, and they have recruited pretty solidly this year, but don't expect much of a difference. Their team is going down the gutter. And I think this year might be the last year that Sam Pittman has his job, and that's the current head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks. So that wraps up the Razorbacks. Let's talk about the Vanderbilt Commodores. And I'm going to post this clip real quick just to make y'all smile.
Got to be kidding me, Alabama!
Hey, Vanderbilt! Congratulations, buddy!
Enjoyed that? All right, that's great. We all love a little Pimp Vandy. Shout out to SEC shorts, baby. Oh man, when I saw that, I died laughing. It's so comical. I love SEC shorts. If you haven't checked out SEC shorts, go follow them on YouTube, or subscribe to them as well. So anyway, let's talk about the Commodores now real quick. So the Commodores, their biggest bright spot, obviously, is Diego Pavia. He decided to return for one more season. And while usually there's not a lot to talk about in terms of Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt has actually been pretty solid, believe it or not. And Diego Pavia returning to them is actually a huge advantage that they could ever get. And they also recruited pretty well for the offensive line, because last season Pavia took too many sacks and was hit pretty often, and their O-line sucked. I mean, now look, let's be honest here. Vanderbilt never recruits well, period. So this could all just be like all set in games and whatnot. So like, even if they recruit these guys on offensive line, they could end up just being just as worse. But it could end up being really good. So, but Pavia is a solid quarterback, and he was solid enough to take down Alabama. He was solid enough to almost take down LSU, almost solid enough to take down Georgia. Like, he's got what it takes to win games. That's for certain. Even with a team like Vanderbilt, because they usually have like nothing going on. But Vanderbilt has been very feisty in the last couple years. And this is where I'm going to get to over. I'm not even covering the defense. They have literally nobody on defense. But I will add one little fun fact about Vanderbilt. Their defense actually had a school best 23.4 points per game allowed, which is actually one of the top best in the SEC, believe it or not. So that does say a lot about the coaching involved with that side of the ball, which is a good sign for Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt is, well, they're the doormat of the SEC. They always lose every year, but the last couple years they've been feisty. And then this happens now and then. Vanderbilt will get feisty, but today's college football age is just significantly different. So, yeah. So overall, while usually Vanderbilt's the doormat of the SEC, don't overlook Vandy whatsoever, because they will punch you in the mouth when you least expect it. I mean, take it Alabama's advice. So, I expect them to do it again next season. Obviously, they're not going to be anywhere close to the top 5 best in the SEC. That's never going to happen. So, yeah. All right. We got Kentucky Wildcats next. There's really not much to talk about these guys. This should be pretty quick. Kentucky has literally nothing on offense. They got this Texas A&M and Incarnate World transfer, Zach Calzada, who is literally their most experienced guy. There's nothing good about these guys. And same on defense. I mean, they got a couple returns at cornerback, safety, and inside linebacker. But the thing is, like the Wildcats, they recruited a lot through transfer portals, and what they really should just hope is that their recruits click instantly. And that's what the head coach, I forgot his name, Mark Stoops. There we go. Mark Stoops, the head coach of Kentucky, he better hope that these new recruits just instantly click right away, because do I think they might improve a little bit next season? Maybe. But based how they look now, no. And they might actually be either worse than Mississippi State, which I'll cover next, or they might actually be better than Vanderbilt. I doubt that highly. So I'm expecting them to just be at the very bottom of the barrel, or second to the bottom of the barrel. Which leads me, and you Mississippi State fans are going to hate me for this one, but I'm going ham on you guys, you cowbell ringing buffoons. Man, it's like, why do y'all have those stupid cowbells? Like, just throw those out. Y'all don't need them. Like, you're wasting your time with that. And they're aggravating as heck. Like, come on, man. Like, you're giving me an ear, you're bleeding ears. You're bleeding my own ears every time. I'm not even there in person. I sit behind the TV and I see it. You idiots ring those cowbells. Like, come on. It's so annoying, man. Like, I wish the SEC would ban those cowbells, but they just won't do that. So, but, that's the least of y'all's concerns, because right now, your concerns for your team next season is not good. So, offense. The running game, I would say, is going to be the team's strength. The question is, who's going to be the starting quarterback? So last season, they had this guy named Blake Shapen, who was injured most of last season, but showed promise. He could end up being the starter again. But they have no experienced wide receivers left and right. And based off their recruiting has been decent. I'm not going to say it's been mind-blowing and amazing. But I'm just going to say for the record that I don't expect Mississippi State to improve at all in offense. Same with defense. In fact, the defense actually ranked worst defense in the SEC. That is sad. The only bright spots they have are linebackers Akiri Tillman and Brandon Jennings, and then there's safety Isaac Smith, who led the SEC in most tackles for a safety group. Literally the only good things about the Mississippi State defense. So, overall, much like Kentucky, Mississippi State fans, you might as well keep those cowbells quiet, because they are going to be, this team's going to be pitifully hopeless for the next year. I really don't see State being anywhere close to being a contender or even a threat to the SEC for at least a couple years. Like, it's going to take them time to, build themselves up, because and maybe Mississippi State, I can't be on me saying this about Mississippi State. I hate these guys so much, but but I think Mississippi State fans know that Mississippi State has fallen behind the times, and they don't recruit well in the transfer portal at all. Like, literally, they just don't. And outside of high school recruiting, which they've been trying to stay consistent, it's like you got to adapt to the times. You had players leaving left and right from the transfer portal out of Mississippi State. They're not coming to Mississippi. You got to have a reason why you want to go to Mississippi State. And I can't tell you, and of course I'm being biased because I hate Mississippi State with passion, but but it's like speaking from a non-biased point of view, there's no reason why you should be going to Mississippi State. There's nothing good there other than getting a good degree. That's really it. And maybe the baseball team, I'll give them that much. And their uprising basketball team, which was actually pretty good last season. But football, nope. I don't think so. So, sorry, State fans, and this always brings me joy when I'm talking bad about Mississippi State, because I hate you guys so much. So, all right, that's all I got for today. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I'm going to try to edit this as fast as possible. But if you haven't checked out my last video, click in the subscription down below, or click on one of these tabs that will pop up at the end of this video. Thank y'all for checking out my first ever college football edition podcast episode. That was a long thing. But anyway, so y'all know what I'm talking about. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope to catch you guys next time. All right, gang. Howdy toddy. Go Rebs. Who that baby? Let's go.